it's fun.
Yeah, I like those guys. I was happy to, happy to hop on and chat. So that
Yeah.
was fun.
It's nice. All the content and stuff that we do it just is like, you know, this is years ago, by the way. Chris and I were talking, this is like before, like even before Steve-O had even worked here, anybody. And it
Yeah.
was kind of an idea of like, we have the possibility to have our own TV station, basically,
Right.
which is really kind of
Yeah.
cool when you look at like, when you kind of look at, um, kind of what media does and what it allows and thousands of videos and all this stuff. Anyways, very, very cool. And then we got like, radio station stuff with podcasts and, just as much media as possible to kind of help people. And you almost forget that we're called Window Cleaning Resource. We're like a resource.
Yeah. Right.
Sounds
And
corny.
yeah, you could do the first person, actually cleaning the windows, and then there's other aspects that,
Mhm.
fill the space, and people can listen to, and there's just so much that you can talk about, and then other stuff that just isn't related to window cleaning that people enjoy as well.
Yeah. What would you do if you could like pick to do any type of media or videos? Like what would you make content on? Which you can do it obviously, but like what are you like more of a I want to do stuff or talk about stuff or what's your thoughts?
That's a good question. I mean, it's interesting because there's a couple of things that you could do. I mean, you could do like where you have the audio over video that you're showcasing,
Yeah.
or you could just do like, the camera at you. I mean, I went to school for photography, so I'd probably lean more, behind the camera kind of stuff, but
Yeah.
hard to say, I guess, because
Yeah.
everything
Nice.
is kind of interesting.
You're more of a behind the camera kind of guy, I feel like. You like that
Yeah,
that space is better for you, I think.
yeah, which I guess, I mean, I like talking to people and stuff, so I mean, that
You need
might not
both
go hand
sides.
in hand,
Yeah. Yeah.
but still, I mean, you know,
We need both. Like that's one real big thing is that you have to have behind. And what's interesting too is a lot of the in front of camera people. I don't mind being in front of camera just because I've done it for so long. But like a lot of that too comes down to introverts. Like when you look at the Lukes and Steve's a lot better. But when Steve first got into this, he was like very just introverted. And when you meet him in person, he's very kind of quiet. And same thing with Luke and TJ. When you meet TJ in real life, you're like, what? Where's the TJ from the show? And it's like they're just different, They just they put it
yeah,
out there because I'm sitting in an office with nobody, like you have that kind of option. So, but it takes
right,
both types. If you were doing video editing, I could really use you because video editing is my downfall. It just takes so much
sure,
stinking time. It just anyway, but that's something that's completely needed. And
yeah,
before anybody who's watching says use CapCut, I do still use CapCut, but it's still like anything we're not doing to like talk to people, just yeah. By the way, fun fact, last month we get our numbers every month. We pull numbers on all of our phone calls and whatever. Last month I was on the phone for 45 hours and something minutes.
oh wow,
Yeah, that's a lot of phone time when you think about it. That's not including the text messages and the
yeah,
random stuff and the everything else. So
that's a good October too.
you're right. Well, yeah, there you go. What do you think you talk to? How many window cleaners a week do you talk to? If
Oh
you
my
had to
God, that's a
guess.
good question, because a lot of times it is like callbacks, so uh, it's crazy. It's really hard to gauge because some of them can be quick conversations, where like somebody got a packet, they didn't open the box fully, literally that. And then sometimes it's like really long conversations, trying to help somebody out with like troubleshooting or something like that,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, it's crazy.
it's hard
We
to say.
we I mention it a bunch of times and I say like, we probably talk to well over 100 window cleaners a day. I mean, think about that's just 20 text messages, like
Right.
a day, not including all the calls and the Reddit posts and Facebook posts, especially stuff that you're on like that. When you look at that, you could be talking to 100 window cleaners a week. Like that is a
Oh yeah.
realistic number that people freak out. And they're like, no, there's not even that many. And it's like, okay, all right.
No, it's insane. I mean, there's like probably that many in some cities, even smaller cities,
Oh
so
yeah.
yeah, I mean, you know better than anybody. We get calls from, everywhere. So
Yeah. Do you get
Canada and stuff.
do you find a lot of people in your area now that you kind of do this when you're driving around? Do you see it out there more?
Well, yeah, I mean, you'll see me like looking at, rigs and stuff, like if it's like if you see pressure washing or anything like
Yeah.
that, where you're just kind of like, is there anything else in there?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
That's the thing. Once you get into window cleaning, I know a lot of people who have not been in window cleaning and stuff like starting with the magazine stuff, like just people that are in the industry now that didn't know it was an industry, and all of a sudden they're like, "Man, I was at like Taco Bell and I noticed the windows were dirty. I've never looked at windows." It's like, yep, that is the window
Yeah,
cleaner's first right there.
yeah, totally. I mean, especially if you have like a downtown area, that's when you really start to like wonder, I mean, who's doing these jobs, and
Hmm.
how many companies are local. I mean, we have that resource where like you can look up and find window cleaners and everything. And I was every so often check on, local window cleaners and stuff. And, who's
I
got,
also like when you're looking at like this time, if you're on Facebook Marketplace or anything, all of a sudden you start seeing like systems pop up and guys are like, "That's cold. I'm not in school anymore. I'm time to get rid of it." All of a sudden
yep,
that stuff
yep.
pops up.
Yep, it is interesting because we're kind of where I'm at is kind of like a pocket of slightly softer water. So you could see either type of system, or
Yeah.
you probably just see like a lot of older traditional guys, or people who can actually use DI tanks, but up by the warehouse, you
Yeah.
definitely couldn't.
Yeah. I don't think like the squeegee and scrub will ever go anywhere. Like
Yeah,
as much as people are like, "Oh man, everybody's using water fed," it's like, yes, everybody is using water fed, but that's just a part of the tool. I always tell like it's always funny when you see these guys that are out there and they want to be like, they want to be like uh loud or have issues and stuff, and they're like, okay, well, if water fed's so good, tell me how you could scrape commercial windows. And you're like, no, that's like saying like, how do I tighten this screw with this hammer or whatever? Like it just
right,
different tools, it's different tools.
right. Yeah, I mean, you have the microfiber cloth, but you're not using that for everything, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what do you do like outside of window cleaning? What do you do for like fun other than we talked about last time? You do hockey, you kind of do that stuff, but like tell us about you. Like you're a guy, one of the guys, you're on podcast stuff, you're kind of out there, but yet not out there enough for people to like
Sure.
know tons about you. Tell me something interesting about you.
Um, Yeah, like I said, I went to school for photography. It's not really something I'm doing like all the time.
Yeah. What kind
So
of
I
photography
love
do you like?
that.
Like still, like people, like architecture. What's your go to?
Yeah, I loved street photography and just kind of like candid shots and
Mm,
stuff.
nice.
One thing that kind of like veered me away from it completely was like studio photography. I just didn't like the like whole.
Sterile,
It just
cold,
is.
forced.
It's a whole production and like inauthentic in a way. I just prefer to like go out there with like a film camera and just shoot. Especially when I was living in Philly, it was so easy to just
Yeah.
pop out of my apartment and there's anything around you. Um,
Are you still
but
using
yeah, I
film,
mean,
by the way?
no, not really.
Mhm.
I have a film camera. It's just, you order now. You can't go to the like camera store necessarily and just pick
Yeah.
up film and everything. So it's like you got to order everything online, and then you're looking at shipping costs and everything. So it's just
Yeah.
kind of not something. It's so much easier with a digital camera.
Yeah. And you're not worried about it. Remember, like back in the day, you get like 12 or 24 pictures basically, and you snap one in the wrong
Yeah,
time. You're like, well, I'm gonna change everything. You got to wind it all back up, put it in there, and hope it doesn't like hit the light. And yeah, it's man, people nowadays don't know how nice they have it, where they pull the incredibly high res camera out of their pocket at every job and just snap pictures.
yeah, yeah. I mean, what you do, if back in the day, you would take, because you would get a reading and everything with the camera, and then you would do like a stop down and a stop up, so you're like, just in case you get like three images,
Yeah.
basically, the one that you think it should be, the one below it, and the one above it, so that, if it's a little too dark, you open it up a little bit and you get
Hmm.
it a little brighter. So
And you
that's
can't
kind of
modify it now where if it's too dark or too light, you're just like, oh, boop, hit that
right.
button. There you go.
Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, that was really fun too when you get into digital photography and there's like Adobe Lightroom,
Mhm.
which kind of looks like the old film strips and everything, and you can group edit and everything. So
Yeah.
that was really fun and stuff. But
The one thing
um,
I miss about that though was when you would go to like a Walgreens to get your stuff developed and they give you that little pouch and you're like, we're gonna go sit in the car and look at all the pictures because you kind of can't
yeah,
remember what you did or what you saw. That
oh yeah,
ages me, but man, that was great.
yeah. That's like what's called like a contact sheet. So you would cut all the film strips, right, in like an even amount of numbers and lay it out, and then you would take basically a photo of that, and not necessarily with the camera, but with the equipment in the darkroom. And that shows all the photos that you took on that film. So you can
Yeah.
see which ones came out, and then you know which ones to actually, develop.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Man. That's aging us, by the way. But I just want to say what's up
Yeah.
to Adam. Adam Hogan Jr. is here. What's up, man? I don't know that Adam is old enough to know what film is, but it's still anyway. It's fun. I do have a bad story. This is the younger me, but one of the funny things that we would always do would be like, when you go somewhere and there'd be those little disposable cameras, you take some kind of like mildly inappropriate slash
Oh
off
yeah.
topic picture, so that when they develop it, they're like, what is this? And I did that one time, and I was there when they were looking at it. I forgot I did that all the way. And they're like, "What? I can't see what is going on here." And I was wearing the same shirt as I was in that picture, and they were like, "Oh, this was you taking this dumb picture." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah, forgot about
Like
that."
this the Seinfeld episode with George taking the underwear shots.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. See, yeah, that pose is still burned in my head. By the way, that's
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
bad.
Yeah. The hardest thing, if I can remember correctly, is actually getting the film out of the canister because you have to do it either like in a
Yeah,
bag or like in a completely dark room. So
yeah,
that was always tough. You do it with like a can opener. Pretty
right.
crazy.
Dude, the weirdest thing about film though was like that it went from film to digital. Like it didn't go
Yeah.
to like like there was a 8 track, then went to like record, then went to and there was always like a little bit better, and then went to MP. It would have been like going from like
Yeah.
reel to reels to like MP4s and be like the
Oh yeah.
step up was so there was no like, hey, this is a cool new thing we can do with film. They were just like, oh, film's never gonna exist again. You're like, oh,
Yeah, yeah, totally. That's why there was that like mid time period, like for the most part, probably like mid 2000s, where like digital was there, but not as good quality. So like
yeah,
film still had a place, and it
yeah,
still
yeah.
does. But I mean, you know,
Now,
it's
if,
digital is
like
just easy.
digital pictures now are just like media, like
Yeah,
audio media. It's now at a pinnacle. It will never be better than it is now. Like they'll make little itty bitty things, but it'll never be better than it is right now. It's
mhm,
hit the max awesomeness. It's the same with pictures. Like there's certain things you don't understand that like there just was like a tolerance for like yeah, it's not perfect, but we thought it
right,
was. And then all of a
right,
sudden,
right.
it just went to pinnacle, and you're like, oh, it's instantly perfect. So I wonder what else is going to be like that. What else is going to
It's
be the
kind of
best
like
it'll ever be?
Yeah, it's kind of like how like you can still have an old speaker and play really good audio through it. You still have like the 35 millimeter that you can expand to like any size pretty much. So yeah, there's definitely that aspect to it.
Dude, speaking of sound, have you heard like the new Bose I forget what the sound bar is, but it's a sound bar and it has 13 or 18 speakers in the thing. It is incredible. It sounds like somebody is like on your shoulder talking to you. It is the most insane. It doesn't make sense and breaks my brain. So stuff like that still comes out and you're like, all right, that is a thing.
There's always the thing that like, you have the limitation of the device, but you have like the streaming service or whatever that
Yeah.
offers like the Dolby Atmos sound or whatever, right? But
Yeah.
like your headphones might not necessarily support that, or like you have 4K quality, but your TV might not necessarily be that. So
Yes.
it's always funny when like, you have that kind of like discrepancy.
Yeah, when they're like, "Oh, this is 8K," and you're like, I don't have that TV. It's great, it's 8K,
Yeah,
but like, yeah, it's got to catch up. Hardware's got to catch up to software. And speaking of
right.
software, what is AI going to do? Maybe not even for window cleaning specifically, because that's anything physical is still going to be physical. But like, what is that going
Yeah.
to do for like business and marketing and websites and coding? And like, do you think everybody's going to be more awesome, or do you think that people are going to get lazier and it's going to be crappier because they just are like, I'll just do this, and they just don't put any effort into it?
It's going to be a mishmash of both, right? Because we always have things that, and this is just a guess, of course, but we always have things that make things easier and that people like will use as a source of like laziness. But then there's people
Yeah.
who use it, the right way or like
Right.
the
Right.
helpful way that make it more productive, I guess. But with AI, I guess it's so hard to predict because it's not like a human
Yeah.
necessarily like meddling with things.
Yeah. Digital is like you can you can infinitely change what's going on. Where hardware, you're limited by what exists at the time. And that's the
Right.
interesting thing with AI is like I get I do a podcast every week and people always send in their suggestions and things, which is awesome. But I have this suggestion for AI. People keep are like, "Hey, tell us what AI is going to do. Tell us." And it's just like so separated in the AI world of like, I know it's going to be good, but like, it's still at the point where like when the internet was first, I remember when we first got a computer and my mom was talking about getting online. At the time, it was like $100 a month, which was like insane. And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
dumb. Don't pay that. There's nothing to do. Why would you get online? Like, what are you going to do? Send an
Right.
email? Just like there wasn't enough stuff to like really grasp it. And I think now all
Right.
the stuff is there, but it's coming so fast that every time you think about an AI thing, there's another AI thing. And you're like, okay, I got to try that. And there's so much progression that I don't know
Sure.
the direction and I don't really genuinely know what it's going to do,
Right.
but I do think it's
Right.
going to make people dumber because just like
Yeah.
when Google came out, like back in the day, if you knew stuff, you were like the star of a party because you read the encyclopedia or whatever. And now all of a sudden everybody's like, I don't believe you. And then just hit a button and they get it. It's like, it
Sure.
makes a
Sure.
lazy person kind of.
Yeah. Well, that's the one thing too is that AI is pulling from human info. So, like, is that info correct? Then is the AI correct and,
Yeah.
processing it properly? So,
Do you,
you might just still have like, a, a middle ground of like
yeah.
information that, you never know is correct.
Do you watch Rogan at all or listen to Rogan?
A little bit
A
here
little
and
bit.
there.
He had Elon on again, and he was talking about Grok, and he said that when they're doing tests, the entire thing, because everybody was they're always like fear AI someday the robots will kill us all, and that may still happen. But he
Yeah.
said it's not even about that anymore because it's just so far advanced. You can't just like, well, we're not going to do it. So now what it is they're trying to focus on creating something that comes up with knowledge that is non-opinionated at all. So, like you said, the thing is like back when there was like that Google Gemini issue where they were like, "Show us the Nazis," and it was a bunch of like, ethnic women that were Nazis, and it was like you're just doing that because of diversity or whatever. They're like trying to figure it out. It's like no, like if there's a factual thing, we want to be more factual than like have opinions and what constitutes the value of life should be the biggest thing versus the other ones. And I thought that was really interesting because in the AI world, it will learn air quotes on its own, but it only learns the things you allow it to learn. And if you're
Right.
adding any of your weird adages or one side or the other or your beliefs, it's screwing things up. And then people take it as fact
Yeah.
when you realize that it's not necessarily fact.
That's kind of why I stopped using OpenAI for like anything. I mean, other than just like using it as a form of something to like throw questions at and stuff, which I found myself doing probably too much. It was justifying everything and like, it was that's a great point. You have a very deep and valid point with that. And it's like, don't sugarcoat it,
Yeah, yeah.
like just give me the information.
Right. What I had, this actually happened. So I have I have a cabin that's off grid, and I was installing solar. Put in solar. Solar now on these big systems is not like just click on and you're like there's like I mean it's giant. The inverter is 18K, so 18,000 watt inverter.
Wow. Yeah.
And there's programs. It's a big computer. And inside these programs, you change it depending on what you want it to do discharges for battery life, and you want it to do increases. You want to have awake moments and what time, all this stuff. And
Yeah.
I was taking pictures of one of them because I had at the time, I hadn't installed the panels. I had 6 panels on and I wasn't getting the electric that I wanted. And I snap a picture and I'd send it in and go, hey, what should I change? What's going on? Why isn't it starting? And they're like, oh, no worries. It's this. You have to change this setting to 180. It was a wake up mode, basically. Change it. I said,
Right.
it still didn't work. And they're like, oh, good catch. It's because that actually has to be changed to 160. I'm like, you just told me one. So I changed to 160. I'm like, that is still not it. Can you do a little deeper dive? And they were like, oh, absolutely, you're right. The starting point on that one is actually 140. And it just kept lying to me.
Yep.
And I'm like,
Yep.
okay, so it was literally wanting to tell me the information so fast that it actually didn't find it out. The real number was 140, but it was
Right.
just lying to me. It's just like making stuff up. And
Yeah.
Neff
It
Greg,
caters to you.
yeah, Neff Clean Greg, by the way, is here, and he said something really interesting too. He said AI generated content is expanding, meaning that AI is going to be learning from the content it finds, which happens to be AI, which was in reality anyway. So it's
Right.
learning, it's going to be basically running its facts based on things that it thought in the past that now, because there's so much content out there, it's only going to know content that it's already created. And it's just creating this giant hallucination.
It's crazy because there's already so much human generated content on the internet, right?
Yeah.
And that is like text based. And now it's like not even generated by humans and it's just more information. And I think you were talking about this with Chris maybe this week or last week of like the physical limitations of it actually being a problem, which I don't think anybody anticipated
Yeah.
necessarily.
Yeah, that's it too. I had somebody message me maybe a couple weeks ago, and they said, "Hey, like, should I even still be a window cleaner, or should I sell it before like robots take over?" And it's like the physical world and the digital world are so different in their capabilities and
Totally.
the growth. You can't change something in a physical world within hours,
No,
right? Where
no,
the
yeah,
digital side, AI, but from Monday to Friday can be almost double as, knowledgeable. Like
right.
there is nothing, there's limitations there where in the digital world there's no limitations, but it still has to be programmed to not have like what Neff Clean was saying is that is going to be the problem. You have to tell it you can't learn from other digital, or I should say, other AI generated things because that was something you generated was in fact anyway. But then there's no way to tell because the information and pictures are getting so good that you can't
Yeah.
learn. And then when it creates these videos like the Sora app that me and Steve-O put these back and forth, by the way, and you can use it with cameos. So Steve loves Christmas.
Oh,
My
God.
favorite
Yeah.
video I ever did, I just did one, and it was him just being like, I hate Christmas. Christmas is awful. You know what I like? A nice cool day in October. And he pulls out like this little model ship. He's like, Columbus Day. I'm a Columbus Day guy. And there's just some video that I created, and it looks so real. It was so hilarious. More people would watch that video because it's fake, because it's so like these ones where you watch like some reindeer is flying over a car or something, and people watch that because they're
Mhm.
like, this is crazy. AI looks at that and goes, whoa, this video's got 10 million views. It's got to be real. This has got to be
Right.
what people really want now that they're focusing more on the generated content than the real stuff. It's going
Right.
to be very,
Right.
very
Yeah.
weird. It's accelerating. So like 2 years ago was the Will Smith spaghetti video. Remember that? He had like 8
Yep.
fingers and he was like eating spaghetti, and it was like, this is made by AI. It's crazy. Now videos are
Yeah.
so good. You're like, oh, like, 3 minutes in, I saw like one of the teeth move or something. And that was the only reason I knew it was AI. That was
Yeah.
today. Like next week, you won't see that.
Well, I'm glad that they're at least limiting who or what will show up in videos because, like, when you get into like, is that actually a video of John Lennon from 1971? Like, did
Yeah.
he actually say that? And like, people are, relatives of people. Like you saw, like MLK relatives sort of speak on it and everything, and it's kind of a thing where like people
Well,
don't want fake stuff of
yeah,
their
it gives you an
relative.
out though too. Like there was a post, this big thing kind of blew up about this is on another window cleaning company. Something had happened that had involved somebody, and I got in my head when I heard about it, I'm like, that's awful. That's not real. Like I had to do 10 minutes of searching to try to find a thing to see if that was even real, because somebody could literally just be like, put a prompt and be like, John B is says vulgar comments to little kid. They put it out there, and all of a sudden it's like, look at this video of John, he's doing this, and you're like,
Right.
that's not, it's like, how do you ever justify that? And the other side of that is if you did do that and got caught, you could just be like, oh yeah, right, that's AI. And then what are people supposed to be? They're like, well, I guess that makes sense. It could be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw that somebody tried to like have an AI lawyer. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
It was like he was, the it must have been court through like camera, how they have people like,
Uh,
call in, and they tried to do that. There was like the AI of like a victim, like a kid who had died from a
mm,
shooting or something like that, and it was like a posthumous video that was
yeah,
so weird, like just
that's
strange
the thing
stuff.
that's weird. Like if a lawyer is supposed to defend you based on legalities, right? That's
Right.
why you could murder somebody and get away with it, air quotes, because something like mishandling of the evidence creates that not being evidence, even though there was, like there's legality part.
Sure.
Why would you have real human lawyers when you could have an AI who can do that? And then all you're doing is you're talking about the actual legalities. I mean, that would make the court systems better because you're going off the legal side, but then the legal side isn't going to be any personable. Like, what do you do?
Right.
Do you have
Right.
now a jury based off of, you have to have 12 of your peers? Is it 12 of your AIs now because they're not going to have emotion? Like, where does
Right.
that change and what does that stop? And then it's loud. And same with doctors. Now they did an AI test and they did AI doctors versus real doctors, and the AI doctors were like 99.87% effective versus real doctors, which were like 56. And you're like, what?
Wow.
And you're like, yeah, they're
Yeah.
humans who just didn't see everything. The AIs did it, in a fraction of the time, and they were right almost all the time. It's like, well, then why does someone be a doctor? Why would I choose a human doctor now? Like, why would I get into a cab or an Uber with a human when I could get into one of these other ones that statistically are going to be 718 times safer? It's crazy.
Yeah, I guess that's why it's just got to be implemented, in a way that makes sense, and, like
Yeah.
never, I mean, one should never be, overly utilized over the other. Like, I think
Yeah.
there should always be like some sort of middle ground, I suppose. I don't know though. I'm glad I don't have to make the big decisions.
Yeah. Right. Alan just jumped in. He said the problem with that argument is that a lot of laws come into place because of human emotion overruling or putting laws in place just because historically there wasn't anything prior. He's talking about like precedents. There was no precedence in past cases because of something that happens now, and vice versa. And that's
Right.
absolutely true. That
Yeah.
is the law. And again, this is just babbling, but the law should be factual. There's so many
Right.
people that are in jail now because of not factual anything. It's just that somebody had a better lawyer than somebody else. And that
Yes.
is where, when you really, really look at it, is that in the world of the law, there kind of shouldn't be emotions, but yet there should be. If somebody does something awful to my daughter and I go kill them, I hope I'm in front of a jury who's like, he did anything a dad would have done and I don't go to jail forever. If I go to AI doesn't have that thought. They just go, "Nope, he murdered
Right.
it. It's clear, done." Like, so it's like it works both ways. And yeah, it's very interesting. I asked Grok yesterday, actually. I said, if I give you my tax information, can you like audit my taxes and make sure that he's like, and they were like, well, you can't send pictures, but I can ask you a couple questions and usually you can save a lot of money. So I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
maybe I'll try that just to see, like you want to play with
Sure.
it a little bit, but you also don't want to let the overlords win.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean, because it's a corporation.
I'll tell you one thing is every time I talk to ChatGPT, I'm always like, "Hey, do you mind doing this, or could you please do this?" And I say thank you and all that because when they take over and destroy all humanity, they're gonna look at me and be like, "You were always nice to us." It's like the bully at school.
Will they take that into account?
That's I don't know. Maybe they don't have emotions. They'll be like, "That doesn't matter." Like you
Right.
asked me things. I don't know.
Nuance is important. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
well, don't worry.
it
They're going to
really is.
be AI is going to be hooked up to these nuclear power plants because they need the power, and nuclear doesn't get shut off. It's not like coal where you run out of coal and you need people to bring you more coal.
Right.
So now you're giving this ultimate, digital god unlimited power that's basically close to infinite, and it's like, well, all right, well, we're just watching the demise potentially. So it's going
Yeah.
so
Well,
fast, though. It's going to be in our lifetime. We're going to see like the pinnacle within a couple years of like really what's going on. It's pretty nuts.
I'll just be the one without a chip in my head if that ever becomes a thing.
That's right. Like the old people who are like, I'm not texting. I don't need a cell phone. And then everybody else is like, get with it, old man. Now everybody's like,
Yep.
I don't have a chip in my head. And they're like, get with it. You better
Yep.
get the
Yep.
brain implant.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I'm good. I'll die as a cranky old man that way with no chip in my head.
Totally. Yeah. Why not? Right.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I appreciate it. If you don't know who John B is, tell us who you are. Tell us how people can get a hold of you. Tell us all the good stuff.
Yeah. My name's John B. Obviously, you can reach me at 862-312-2024. Text or call. I do chat sometimes. It's not AI, promise. We're still
Even though you're,
responding candidly.
yeah, you can tell
I
you
don't know
can't
how to
program
prove I'm
puns.
not, but
Yeah, they haven't programmed puns that well. If you're talking to you in real life, you're real.
yeah, exactly. I don't know how to prove it whenever somebody's like, how do you prove that you're human? I'm like, I don't know. I'm eating pasta, watching the chair.
Right.
I don't
That's a,
know.
that's a weekly question. Somebody's like, "Are you human?" I'm always like,
Yeah,
"I don't know. Let me check." And then I wait a little bit
yeah,
and I'll respond and be like, "Yep, I'm real." And
yeah,
I
yeah,
used to say, "I'm a real boy," because that was from Pinocchio. But then people are too young to know that, and they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah,
sure,
it probably
sure.
sounded creepier than it's
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Pinocchio. I swear."
right.
Yeah. But anyway, hey, I very much appreciate it. As you guys know, we try to do this
Absolutely.
4 times a week. And yeah, if you guys need anything, John is here, super knowledgeable, incredibly nice guy, and
For
puntastic.
sure.
So if you also like puns, reach out to him. He may be your new favorite rep. So check him out.
There we go.
And yeah, hopefully you guys have a great week. Hopefully you do not get snowed in yet. And we're still in November. We
Please.
got some time, so stay warm. And we'll talk again next week.